It's this,
It's the
and you're listening to It's Really That Deep.
We have takes on everything you're watching.
Today we're talking Fantastic Four First Steps, a 2025 superhero movie based on the eponymous characters from the Marvel Comics. Written and directed by Matt Shakman, it stars Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, Ibon Moss-Backrack, and Joseph Quinn. It was released in July 2025. D, what background did you have of the movie going in?
Not much. I'm not really a comic book fan. Yeah, not much at all, really. How about you?
I watched all the 2000s F4 movies and the highly unserious 2010s ones. Matt Shakman's WandaVision is probably my favorite thing Marvel ever did, so I was pretty excited about it, and I love the main cast. Was Fantastic Four First Steps good, bad, or mid?
Mid leaning on poor. I wasn't impressed at all. I wasn't bored. I'll give them that much. It was entertaining enough to keep my attention, although I did start to lose attention at times. I think everything I saw, I've seen it done better in other movies, frankly. There was nothing fantastic about this movie in summary. There were good elements, there were elements that could have been done better, but nothing fantastic. How about you? Good, bad, or mid?
I totally disagree. I really enjoyed Fantastic Four First Steps. I watched it in a cinema in Italy and I had a great time with it. I love the aesthetics of it. I enjoyed the performances. I agree it wasn't as thrilling as I wanted it to be, and it wasn't as subversive as I wanted it to be. But I found it to be one of the most disciplined movies Marvel has made recently. If I were to compare it with Superman, I would say it's roughly even with it, and I'd probably give Fantastic Four the slight edge.
I'm truly, truly stunned. I have to say, this is not a serious movie at all. Everything that it does, it's been done better elsewhere.
But Superman isn't a serious movie.
And neither is this movie. All it wants to tell us is that the strongest force on the planet is a mother's love. Okay, what next? It's not the 1960s. Well, it is in the movie. But...
There were moments I was wondering to myself, is this movie, by positioning itself in this retro-futuristic 60s world, is it trying to say something about the Cold War or tensions that exist between nuclear powers and things like that? And then I realized, no, it's not. It's not really.
And I have to say, the
much
timing
about
of
that.
this movie is horrendous. Women do not need this message at this particular time.
Oh,
yeah.
What do you mean?
At a time where countries around the world are complaining about decreasing birth rates as if that's a problem, and trying to push onto women that you should have kids and it's not a big deal, just get started because it's never going to be an ideal time. Women do not need more messaging about how your purpose as a woman is to be a mom and that's the strongest force on the planet. We don't need it.
I have criticisms on that relating to the Silver Surfer character, but I will say for Sue Storm, Franklin, the baby, is a very important character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and always has been. So the fact that both she and Reed are kind of obsessed with this child that is coming is just part of the lore at this point. Now, I will say the movie does fall into the trope for me by making the other prominent female character also be a person whose very important life decision revolved around her child. At that point, I was like, okay,
but here's my issue though. Sue Storm's entire life and personality is focused around keeping the baby safe, but Reed isn't. So whenever there's, even the uncle is ready to sacrifice his life first before Reed.
But wait, hold on. But Sue Storm, she achieved demilitarization of the entire world.
As a throwaway scene in the first few minutes of the movie.
Let's talk about the themes in Fantastic Four First Steps. We know how you feel about the family and motherhood in this film. You weren't very impressed.
No. The family dynamic wasn't believable for me. It didn't feel like they were a cohesive team. It felt like they were random people with their own side quests and side stories, but not much holding them together apart from the plot. Motherhood, of course, for the women who choose motherhood, it's a big part of your life. I get it. And I've heard many moms say that it's a wonderful thing and so on. My problem is, this movie seems to put more onus on motherhood than fatherhood. Fatherhood isn't just being present and being worried about your child's life in that family. Reed has less urgency when it comes to saving that baby than even the uncle does.
Stop it.
The uncle's ready to sacrifice his life to save the baby. Reed doesn't. He's just busy in his lab, coming up with stupid ideas to save the world that aren't going to work.
He's overwhelmed with angst. He has the weight of the whole world on his shoulders. And why does he have that whole weight? Because the whole world seems to listen to anything they say. So you feel like the family chemistry wasn't there. I had almost the exact opposite criticism. I bought the relationships and the dynamics between our main characters. My issue was everybody else. I felt like there were the four of them who had created this hub of relationship, and they felt completely secluded from everything else and everybody. When they interacted with other characters, it felt like I was watching people in a vacuum. It just felt inorganic to me. And that's because we spend so little time understanding the context of the world they're in. And considering this is an alternate universe, basically, where demilitarization has been achieved, the entire world seems to work in perfect tandem and all of that. I guess it's a comic book movie, but I found that such a leap to believe that more work needed to be done for it to make sense to me, and it didn't make sense. When they would have scenes where Reed and Sue would agree that, okay, we're going to tell London and Paris and South Africa and Kenya to turn off all their lights at the same time, and you see the four of them and the four of them only in a room saying, okay, now Italy, go, turn off the lights. Okay, now go, Tokyo, turn off the lights. And they all immediately do it with no pushback.
Yeah.
I get it, it's supposed to be an alternative reality, but please, can we be serious here? They have no assistants, they have no administrative workers, they have no technicians. It's just the four of them and all 5 billion, 6 billion people in the world, however many people were alive in the 1960s. Let's be serious.
And on that point, very quickly, something I found interesting about this movie is that it's very white and it's set in New York, right?
In the 1960s.
In the 1960s. So where's all the black people?
Sue's best friend is black.
And then, okay, I get it. You're talking about the lady.
Lee Nichols. Yes.
But where's the rest?
You see, maybe when demilitarization was achieved, everybody just went to go and live their own utopia in their own communities.
Not you saying the utopia for New York is no black people.
No, I mean, no. I mean, black people have their own havens of utopia.
Okay.
Within New York, that's not the immediate vicinity that we keep on seeing. Maybe they've left these white people to do their own ghetto thing in Manhattan. I think the reason I enjoyed the Reed Richards character perhaps more than you, in addition to my thirst for Pedro Pascal, which you don't share.
No.
That's not the only reason.
Sure.
And you can't talk considering how you responded to David Corenswet in Superman.
That's my man. I won't tolerate
Anyway, is that I very much read Reed Richards as someone somewhat on the spectrum, and if not literally on the spectrum, it was an analysis of how people that are socialized as hyper intelligent, how that can limit even their own ability to navigate society. And to some degree, it's a bit cliche to do the whole super genius who doesn't know how to speak to other people. But I personally thought it was handled with nuance. I felt that way.
I wasn't getting that from Pedro Pascal's performance. I have to be honest. I actually think he was miscast. We studied in elite universities to do a chemistry degree. We know what those people are like, right? We know what it's like to be around a super genius, at least when it comes to paper intelligence, and how those people maybe struggle to speak to others sometimes. I didn't feel that there was nuance. I never saw that glimmer from him where I could see something other than that angst. And I understand it. I understand what's at stake here. He's at risk of losing his son. Basically, he's got the choice between losing his son and the world blowing up, right? I understand that. But with Sue Storm, I felt that I was able to get a bit more from her. So I would agree with you. I think Vanessa Kirby's performance was at least much stronger than Pedro Pascal. What I will say in Pedro Pascal's defense, though, is I was able to relate to an extent when it comes to the scene where you see him considering quietly, should I give up my son? And I related to that because, I studied chemistry and now I worked in the tech space and stuff like that. And when your brain is trained in those environments, you are trained to come up with the brute force solution. And in this scenario, the brute force solution is give up the baby because it's one baby versus billions of people on the planet, right? So it's like, there's an interesting ethical dilemma there. Was Pedro Pascal the one to really show me that? No.
I won't tolerate any of that slander. I saw someone comment that one of the few really interesting things this movie was doing was sprinkling in hints that Pedro Pascal's Reed Richards has a narcissism complex, but the movie never fully explores it. And I agree, it would have been really cool if they did, because there was a very passing moment where there was like some kind of crime happening in the city, and he told the rest of the Fantastic Four, don't worry about it. I've already set up some kind of technology service that like the automated police stuff just goes and catches them, and I've set this thing up. He has basically established an elaborate surveillance police state, and that's how this utopia is being maintained. It's the reason I keep on pointing out how weird it is there's no pushback on the fact that they get to essentially dictate the direction of the entire planet's technological and political decision making. What's really going on there? Like, how has all power been unilaterally given to these individuals led by this one man? And this little mini god complex he has, is there something sinister in there? And the fact that that kind of man, like you said, the rawly practical solution to this problem is, of course, one baby versus billions of people, give up the baby. If that kind of thought crosses through the mind of someone like that, and that person gives into their worst instincts, what's the implication of that? And what's the implication of the people who love him, stroke enable him? The movie starts to flirt with it, but it's too much of a standard comic book hero movie. They fight the bad guy ends really good there. And it's a pity, because I actually do think Pedro and Vanessa, if given the time to linger in that, they could actually cook a bit.
I actually think the movie does get into this theme more than maybe we're giving credit, because if you're informed about weaponizing competence, you should see that Reed ultimately is a man who demonstrates weaponizing competence, in the sense that Sue Storm makes it clear to him that she wants him to build the crib, I believe, for the baby. Yeah. And he suddenly decides that, no, that's not what I'm going to do. I'm too grandiose for that. I'm too intelligent for that. Let me leave that to the robot. Let me go and scan this baby 1,000 times. Reed Richards, I struggle to buy Reed Richards as the most intelligent man in the world. And I understand that in this universe, he's supposed to be that. On multiple occasions, he comes up with solutions that are wholly impractical and basically ridiculous, especially the solution to basically transport the Earth into a different part of the universe or something. That's the best you could come up with. The fact that Sue Storm was the one who ultimately had to solve a lot of the problems wasn't helping with that. And again, for me, as someone who was struggling with the position of women in this movie, to repeatedly see this man who's supposed to be the most intelligent man on the planet have his problems be solved by his wife, and then she's not getting the credit for it, really, it wasn't working for me.
I think part of the problem with that is not even purely an acting or writing problem, it's an editing problem. This movie was chopped up very much, and I could see that very clearly. I could see there were storylines and scenes that had been clipped very suddenly. I could feel Disney and Marvel interfering with the final cut of the film, and I think that's a pity, because I think Matt Shakman is a pretty thoughtful filmmaker. When it comes to women, I was very excited for Julia Garner's Silver Surfer, and I did enjoy watching her. I thought the special effects for her were fantastic. I love the scene of her surfing through the black hole in the chase. Clearly, Matt Shakman has been watching lots of Interstellar. But her character ultimately still wasn't developed enough for me, and the revelation of her motivations, I was not impressed.
Yeah, so the Silver Surfer was by far the most interesting thing in this movie for me. I wasn't interested in everybody else for the reasons I've already mentioned. I think what I liked the most about her was the juxtaposition of Silver Surfer, who was quite callous. You know, she literally comes onto Earth with a massive bang. She looks stunning, and she's telling them, listen, you guys are going to die, and there's nothing you can do about it. Welcome to Galactus's world, basically. And she's just taking people out. She's ruthless. I enjoyed that juxtaposition against Sue Storm, who was very quickly becoming a mum. Literally, full stop, a mum. So I was very irritated when the revelation comes out. And here we go. Here's yet another woman who this movie says her purpose ultimately is to be a mum. Why is it that none of the men's purpose is to be a father?
Well, the other two boys, their purpose is to be uncles. So I would defend this movie on my dying breath. Bechdel Test is a measure of representation of women in film and other fiction. In Alison Bechdel's comic strip, one woman explains that she only goes to a movie if it satisfies the following requirements. 1, the movie has to have at least 2 women in it. They have to talk to each other, and they have to talk to each other about something other than a man. Do you believe that Fantastic Four First Steps passes the Bechdel Test?
Surely, this movie fails, no?
No, it definitely passes, because Sue and Lynn, who achieved world peace together, they definitely have a scene early on where they're walking into the United Nations or their United Nations equivalent, and they're talking about their work, D. You were so busy hating on this movie, you didn't notice these two queens who had linked up to maximize their joint slay.
Yeah, for all of 1 second, probably. Okay.
But that's all you need to pass the Bechdel test.
Okay, I'll give it to them. All right.
But Sue definitely does not speak to the Silver Surfer, not once. Silver Surfer spends all of her time kicking with Johnny Storm or Galactus.
And then let's not forget she sacrifices herself. Oh gosh, here we go again. Woman sacrifices herself for man. Wow.
D, what would you give Fantastic Four out of 10?
I cannot give it more than a 5. And I'm really struggling not to... I'm struggling not to drop it down to a 4.5. For context, I gave Superman 7. I think that was a well-deserved 7, even though I was also considering dropping it to a 6.5. But, like, Fantastic Four is nowhere... It's not close to Superman. They're not in the same league, in my opinion.
You can't be serious.
I'm very serious. What do you rate it?
This movie is a 7, maybe 7.5. The only reason I won't give it a 7.5 is because I don't want to rate it evenly with Sinners. So, because I don't think it's as good a movie as that. But again, this is one of the most serious Marvel movies I've ever watched. So, no, I definitely can't give it. I can't believe you're giving it a 5.
You're telling me this movie is 0.5 of a star, less than Sinners?
Yes.
Wow.
You know I have a lot of problems with the structuring of Sinners.
Yeah, I know.
I don't think the structure of this movie is bad. I think the editing is questionable. And I think it's not as thrilling as it could be. But I think it is a very technically well-made production. And I think the casting of the core four works. And because I believe that works, which is the main focus of the movie, I can't say it's a bad film.
Okay, fair enough. If you believe the casting works and you're not upset with the technicals, even though Galactus, somebody who consumes planets for a living, is just about the same height as the Statue of Liberty, then sure, fair enough.
I was appreciating the threatening nature of Galactus when he was in space, but the moment he landed on Earth, we saw that CGI of him in bright daytime, I was like, okay, it's a wrap on this. And when we see Sue Storm managing to push this man, not just hold him back, but push him several steps backwards. Mm-hmm. I get it. She's using all of her power on him. And Sue Storm is very powerful. But no, it was just making him seem not that threatening.
It was a joke.
Now we're going to do our Is It Really That Deep segment. The Mariana Trench is 6,000 fathoms deep and the lowest depth man has reached inside the earth. How deep is Fantastic Four First Steps, D?
It's shallow. It's extremely shallow. This movie wants to tell me, in a time where women's rights are being rolled back around the world with regards to our reproductive rights, this movie wants to come and tell me that a woman's purpose is being a mum and that a mother's love is the strongest force on the planet. Not having it.
I would say this film like 1,000 fathoms deep out of 6,000. I wanted to believe that it was dealing with quite a lot of depth when I first saw the first images from it because of the 1960s retrofuturistic setting, because the 1960s was such a politically volatile time. I was like, there's no way you can make a film about this time with this kind of interesting cast. And I know Matt Shakman is a politically informed director and not weave in some of those elements, but they didn't. Not the Cold War, not civil rights, not Vietnam, not much. Like, yeah, they're dealing with the nuclear arms race because they address the fact that these people achieved demilitarization. But it doesn't really serve as a strong metaphor for the current Cold War that is happening in the world right now when it comes to nuclear weapons between Iran, Russia, the US. So I was actually quite shocked by how little it wanted to peek below the surface. There were those moments of implying that Reed and perhaps the Fantastic Four as a whole are operating some kind of weird techno oligarchy over all of New York or all over the world. But it was so lightly touched upon, I can't even fully give it that credit. So, yeah, very few fathoms of depth for me. Mm-hmm. Let's get into the comments that we've been seeing across the internet and on our own platform from people about Fantastic Four First Steps. I'm going to read out this review from Letterboxd where ArchCobb11 simply said, Fuck that baby. What do you think?
I'm telling you, for the first half of this movie, maybe even 75% of this movie, all I could think was F them kids. Give that baby over. You're going to sacrifice billions of people for this one baby. And you want the people to be okay with it. And I saw people on social media talking about, oh, wow, people switched up so quickly. People are fickle. Yes, they are. But you need to tell me, people that are selfish as hell in real life, right? You lot are upset about taxes and stuff like this. But you want me to believe that you would be okay with one couple sacrificing everybody else for their one baby. F them kids.
Gee, I can't believe that you said that you've solved the trolley problem and the solution is let that person
F
die.
them kids. F them kids. Sorry. Not one baby. No.
Next comment is also from Letterbox. Sasha said, I still can't believe they copied off of The Incredibles.
Constantly seeing references to The Incredibles. And by the way, I know that The Incredibles actually inherits from Fantastic Four and not the other way around. But for me, the mole man, the family dynamic, the 1960s retro futuristic look, everything had been done better in Incredibles. So it got to a point where I was like, why am I watching this movie? Let me just go and watch The Incredibles. In fact, it reminds me, I haven't watched it in a long time. Let me go rewatch it. It's one of my favorite movies.
I agree that The Incredibles is one of the greatest movies ever made, but that doesn't mean that this wasn't a cute comic book movie. That's all I'll say about that.
So we also got some comments on our platform. So let's get into those.
So this person said on TikTok that I'm a dad. If I was made to choose between my kids and the planet, you better start looking for another planet.
You better start looking for another baby, sir. We need to save the billions of people on the planet.
Wow. Another person said Invisible Woman is a mom though, and instead of letting it overshadow her amazing character, they used it as a motivator for her. Yes, the plot revolves around Franklin, so as his mother, she obviously revolved herself around Franklin. Same goes for Reed and the entire family, to be honest. We see other aspects of her character other than wife and mom. Overall, in my view, she shows how she is both a mother and superhero.
I fundamentally disagree, right? And the reason why is because, yes, I know what you're referring to. You're referring to the scenes in the very, very beginning where we see Sue Storm acting in this political role, right? And she's in charge of keeping things safe around the world. I get it. But for the majority of the movie, vast majority actually, we see her in mummy mode. We see her fighting to save her child in a way that we do not see Reed doing it. And I know that people are saying, well, Reed's main motivation here is keeping the baby safe as well. We didn't see him sacrificing his life. She sacrificed her life. The uncle was ready to sacrifice his life.
Didn't you see Galactus pulling Reed apart like he was chewing gum?
No. That's something different. He almost got killed. That's not the same as willingly sacrificing your life to save your child. I have no problem with a movie looking at the way how parenthood functions, but this movie really is examining motherhood. I'm sick and tired of that.
Didn't you see how Reed Richards was the number one obstetrician in outer space? He helped deliver that baby on that spaceship.
Why the hell did Sue Storm go into that plane as a heavily pregnant woman?
Listen, when you've already faced nuclear cosmic radiation that turned you into a superhero, it's not a quick little space flight that's going to scare you.
So we got another comment on YouTube by Stephen Germ is Hughes. They say, go read a Wikipedia page on the Fantastic Four. It may help you to learn more about the backstory.
I have so much to say to this person, but the assumption that we don't know what we're talking about is so deeply amusing to me. I wonder what characteristics we have that made this person assume that we would need to go on Wikipedia to know who the Fantastic Four are. I have watched every Fantastic Four movie that has ever been made. I've read the comics since I was a kid. I know these characters inside and out. I know all of Matt Shakman's work. I know everything about the pre-production process for this film. Very bold to assume you don't know what we're talking about. I wonder what made you think that about us. Tiger J1012 said, or maybe it wasn't misogynistic, but really just showing how a mother would sacrifice for her children. Mothers exist. Both Silver Surfer and Sue were easily the most powerful, other than Galactus, in the film. Actually, the most powerful person in this film is the baby. It's true.
It is true. Yeah, look, mothers exist, as I've mentioned already. I understand motherhood is powerful. Parenthood in general should be powerful, though. And again, I don't understand why it's only the mothers here who their character is to be motivated by their parenthood. And we don't see the same with Reed, I'm sorry. And as you mentioned, They changed out the Silver Surfer to be a woman in this movie, which I've seen is upsetting a lot of people. I don't know why. If that Silver Surfer was a man, would that have been the same storyline? Would the Silver Surfer, male Super Surfer, would they have been motivated by their child in whichever planet got consumed by Galactus? No.
We're going to do our toe dip segment where we briefly discuss something we've watched. We want to talk about this last season of Love Island and this cast of Love Island and the discourse around it because there has been a lot going on. For some background, I watched most seasons of Love Island UK. I stopped watching the UK version a few years back, but I've watched every US season pretty much from the beginning. These days, I don't fully commit myself to watching every single episode because the amount of brain cells being drained is a bit much even for me. But I do keep up with the discourse and I will watch the most iconic scenes and episodes.
So like you, I used to watch Love Island heavy in the UK, and I also liked watching the international ones, so not just the USA, also Australia. There's a season of Australia that's one of my favourites actually, and a very crazy woman there who was my fave. I have stopped watching it recently though because frankly I'm a black woman. There's only so many times I can watch the same storyline of black women being denigrated, men acting as if black women are not gorgeous when they clearly are. And so yeah, I started to phase it out as well. And now I just kind of keep up with it when I have time and I watch the discourse. That's about it. So let's talk about the cast of this season of Love Island. And let's start with the black women. So what did you think about Shelley and what did you think about Olandria?
I can't lie to you, I am a bit of an Olandria stan. As I before, we're going into any season of Love Island USA, I'm always rooting for the girlies. I'm always rooting for the black women. Olandria in particular, I was just a fan of because I love her aesthetic. She has a bit of a soft alt aesthetic. She looks kind of like a vampire when she dresses up sometimes in the most gorgeous way. So I'm just a big fan. She's from Alabama and she calls herself the Bama Barbie. I just liked her a lot. And she carried herself in this very interesting way where you can tell she's used to being the responsible person in her family.
Yeah.
And she only allows herself certain limited amounts of vulnerability, allows herself to get upset very few times. It upset me to watch it, but at the same time, I recognized it so strongly. So I generally was quite captivated by Olandria's storyline over the season. Shelley, I liked her. She's gorgeous. She looks like Halle Bailey. The main thing I can say about Shelley's storyline is that I find it wild that in the early episodes of the season, this Haitian woman was partnered up with this shameless MAGA racist who had been posting Haitian eating dogs and cats racist memes. Obviously, she wasn't aware of this. She didn't know this. But I had to sit down and be watching this man romancing her. Meanwhile, I'm like, oh, he has made it clear on the outside he actually hates her people. I've seen people push back on that by saying, oh, those are just political beliefs. He was just reposting Trump stuff. I'm so sorry. I don't remove your politics from your real life feelings, and I don't understand how people do that.
Romance is political, period.
Like, do you really think that he's posting Haitians eating cats and dogs mean just for banter? You think he doesn't share any of that sentiment and the anti-blackness and the xenophobia that is associated with that? Is everybody okay? I have mixed and somewhat controversial thoughts about Huda. The first most important thing I think to note that explains a lot of Huda's behavior with men on the show and with women, especially the black women on the season, that you need to understand that she is one of those women of color who certain parts of her aesthetics and the way she lives her life is modeled on this IG baddie ideal that pulls directly from the features of black women, is optimized on a non-black woman in the eyes of certain kinds of men. And so she's used to getting a certain kind of attention from different kinds of men, but especially black men. So when you put her in an environment with lots of black men where the whole purpose of the show is for people to date and have romantic and sexual flings with each other, and any of those black men are showing an interest and a desire for black women over her, that is just not what she's used to experiencing in real life. And unfortunately, some of these kinds of women, the black men in their lives, have actually spoken derisively of black women and have enabled them to develop certain kinds of superiority complexes about them. I will say, I didn't actually feel that Huda ever spoke in an anti-black tone directly towards the black women, But I would say certain things about her behavior
the
showed
behavior.
a person that was reacting to not being used to Black women being chosen over her. I have other thoughts about her mental health and Love Island's duty of care in casting her in the first place.
You're right. Huda doesn't say anything explicitly that's racist. She does weaponize her non-blackness against Black women in the sense that when she's immediately running off and crying and taking a big scene over Olandria basically standing up for herself, these are the sorts of things where it's like, you obviously think Black women's place in your life is to be a coach for you, is to be soft around you, when you're not soft around other people. Right? She's quite rude to people on the show as well. Having said that, she is a live wire, and I do enjoy seeing women be able to be non-perfect in a setting like a Love Island and get away with it. And she has gotten away with it. Since she's come out, she's attracting huge crowds now. I have no doubt about her social media career going forward. She's absolutely going to kill it. All I'm saying, though, is that I would love to see Black women be able to do that on a show like this, and I just don't think it's going to happen anytime soon.
There were so many times on this season that Olandria was visibly holding herself back from reacting to many different kinds of people and many different scenarios because of the way that she would be socialized by reacting. I do agree with you, though. I think I don't actually have this very vitriolic reaction to Huda that many people have, because to some degree, I do give quite a bit of grace to women that are misbehaving in public, because I know nobody will, but they would do it for men continuously. Yeah. Also, she's not doing anything that a lot of these men were not enabling. I want to talk about this mutual fetishization that happens between these kind of women of color and Black men. So they are fetishizing her for her BBL and her lip filler and her this and her that. And she's fetishizing them because from what we see, her entire dating history is exclusively Black or mixed men. The father of her child is Black. On the show, she got with Jeremiah, who is my favorite Nigerian scammer from this season. She got with Jeremiah, who thought he could scam his way into the 100K with her before he realized he wasn't actually built for this for real, and he tried to back away.
Yeah.
Then she also got with JD, I believe his name was, before he realized he wasn't built for it either. Then she got with Chris, but Chris wasn't built for it either. And now since she's come out of the village, she's with Cloud Chaser #1, Lewis. But all I can say about every single one of these men is that you saw the men right before you. You saw all of that crazy and you dove right in. So why should I be crying over your matter?
Yeah. Huda is the type of woman that will make these men pay. Like, she's not going to be a wallflower for you to just enjoy her clout, enjoy everything she offers you, and then you just walk away scot-free. No, if you're going to be with Huda, you're going to deal with the crazy, and if you don't, you're done. And I love a woman that's like that, actually.
And many of them want to deal with it, so hey, go and enjoy yourself.
If you like it, I love it for you.
I do also have a lot of wariness about how people speak about her sexuality or her perceived hypersexuality, considering she's a victim of abuse from her father, specifically. And I don't know too much about her family backstory, but knowing certain dynamics about certain kinds of like hyper-religious families and how they simultaneously project an extreme amount of sexuality onto their daughters whilst also shaming them for it, it creates all sorts of complexes in these kind of women. And so I tend to be very careful about how they speak on it. However, these allegations Chris made that could be read as her coercing him sexually should also not be taken lightly.
Yeah, so to be honest with you, when I saw the Call Me Daddy interview, all I could think was Love Island casting directors are really trash. And it's something that's long been known about reality TV. If you were to cast only healthy people who've never been through anything traumatic and are just all very cuddly and friendly, TV would be boring, let's be honest. We're not going to watch it. So they do have to cast some people that have, sometimes prickly personalities or maybe some trauma even. But when I listened to her interview and also listened to her experience since then, all I could think to myself was, I am not sure that Love Island is the place for someone in her position. I'm not saying that people who have gone through that sort of abuse can't move forward. They can. I understand it's very difficult though. But I do think that the casting directors probably picked her because of the personality that has formed out of everything she's been through.
100%. There's many different red flags that a Huda can give you within a few minutes of speaking to her
Yeah.
to make you realize that this is perhaps not the most responsible casting decision to make. But they're not in the business of making responsible casting decisions. They're in the business of creating entertainment. And it worked.
It worked.
The first third of this season was the buzziest opening of a Love Island USA season that ever happened. I had so many people that had never watched the USA seasons coming to me and say, ooh, what's all this I'm hearing about this Huda babe? What's all this I'm hearing? What's all this I'm hearing? So it worked. So from the point of view of producers or the executives at Peacock, it's the sound business decision to make.
Exactly.
There were several points in those first few weeks where she was completely wilding out with Jeremiah, where I was like, really, the objectively healthy decision to do is to pull her out of the show. Not to punish her per se, but to create some stability around her. I'm not sure putting her in this pressure cooker that is the Love Island show is the healthiest thing that happened to her. I do suspect some kind of intervention did happen after that period though, because there was a sudden dialing down of temperature after a certain episode that makes me think maybe they sent in someone for her. The fact that that was necessary is that not kind of crazy though?
This is where we as an audience have to look at ourselves as well. We really do have to ask ourselves that, is it the most ethical thing to get entertainment from people who are struggling, let's say, maybe struggling in a difficult situation? But on the flip side, look at Huda's life now. She'll have all the access to therapy and whatever she needs to be healthy.
Did you see her shaking hands with Huda Beauty?
I did, and I loved it. I loved the content, and I really hope that she does do well.
I want to talk about the Nic, Olandria, and Cierra of it all, because I have many thoughts.
Let's go.
Well, first of all, before we even get into Nic, Olandria, I just want to briefly talk about Cierra and what I will consider to be selective accountability that was happening this season. The way Cierra was dumped from this villa, I've had this conversation with so many people where I'm like, do you think that is in line with what Love Island typically does? And they all seem to say yes. But as a person that's watched almost every season of Love Island across many different countries, I strongly disagree. I think that was one of the more abrupt, sterile dumpings they've ever done when they pull someone out of the villa. So the reason Cierra was removed was because there was a video circulating of her using a slur towards Asian people to describe her eyes. Apparently, when she initially posted that on her Instagram stories or wherever it was, she quickly took it down because someone slid in her DMs and told her that this is inappropriate. She apologized and she never posted it again. Many months later, Love Island, or years later, Love Island happens, and some up of hers had that in their pocket ready to go, and they released it. The person that was managing Sierra's social media on the outside at the same time is clearly no real friend of hers, because she was making the whole situation worse, saying all sorts of inflammatory things.
Oh no.
At the exact same time this was happening, the fan love for Nic and Olandria as a couple was reaching a feverish high. And as a person who liked Olandria a lot, I won't lie, to some degree I was part of it because I just wanted my girl to stay in the villa, and I knew that they were so popular together that would be probably the best avenue for it. Now, my thing about that is, why was she removed so abruptly, but Austin got to chill in that villa as long as he wanted? And this man's entire TikTok page was full of some of the most vile, racist, anti-black, xenophobic, hateful content that you could see. But because it was under the umbrella of his political beliefs, it was acceptable. The cynical side of me is the only reason Love Island took action on getting Cierra out because they knew Nic and Olandria were the most popular thing that was happening on the internet at the time. They were getting some amount of pressure from the public. And in my opinion, the women tend to be held to a slightly higher standard than the men. I'm not saying that she should get a pass because men are misbehaving. I am saying that there is some kind of weird, disproportionate accountability that's going on here. That doesn't sit right with me.
And what did you think about Nic and Olandria?
Like I said, Olandria is my girl, so I was just rooting for her. And when it came to her relationship with Taylor, I was seeing many scary signs of women that have been socialized to believe that there's only one kind of love that they can accept or should accept, expect, or tolerate from men, especially men from within their communities.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, some of these women are conditioned to ignore the flags of when these men are actually expressing that they might not be that into you. They could be sexually into you, they could be physically into you, or whatever. They might even like your company or what you do to them, but fundamentally they are not rooting for you to thrive. And that's what I kept on seeing in her dynamic with Taylor, and it was so disturbing for me to witness. There's also currently an epidemic of gorgeous girls letting mid-men make them feel like the men are the prize, and I find it very scary to watch, and that's what I felt like I was witnessing there. So when she was forced to snap out of that by the Taylor thing ending in such a bad way, I was like, you know what, at least Nic is visibly obsessed with her on the show. Everybody knows it. The whole dynamic everybody used to talk about is Nic is so obsessed with Olandria, but she basically pays him dust. I would always rather see that than a woman being down bad over a man that's not worth it.
One of the reasons why I stopped watching Love Island is because I realized that Black women were setting a trap for ourselves. And that trap is automatically fawning over any man that shows visibly, as you described it, visibly shows a dark-skinned Black woman attention. Now, I understand where this is coming from. I myself am a dark-skinned Black woman. I understand there's all sorts of dynamics when you live in a non-Black majority country. And even sometimes when you live in a Black majority country, by the way. What I'm trying to say is, by us having these conversations on public platforms, we are demonstrating to non-Black men going onto these shows that all you have to do to get some degree of guaranteed clout is to associate yourself with a dark-skinned Black woman. What that then means is we cannot trust what the men are doing visibly on the show. And that's why in the past week alone, we've had Janae and Kenny, Whitney and Lachlan, where it's been exposed that the man was just using them for clout. In the past, we've also had Cindy and Edgar from France, and we've also had Justine and Caleb. And this is going to keep happening as long as men understand that by associating with Black women, they're going to get a guaranteed audience on social media, and they'll be able to benefit from the clout of that. All I'm saying is, have higher standards for these men. Simply showing interest in dark-skinned Black women shouldn't be enough to get your undying support for them.
All I can say about that Janae and Kenny situation is apparently people had outed him as a Trumpy MAGA Republican last year. And again, I continue to see this very scary narrative that people say that you can remove a person's politics when it comes to stuff like that from their personal beliefs or relationships. And I'm very scared by how people think, because I'm like, how exactly are you separating those two things from each other? Y'all are not scared enough for your well-being for me. Now we're going to do a trailer watch where Dee and I live react to a trailer for a movie or a TV show that we are interested in.
All your generation, you're scared of saying the wrong thing.
Aya looks cute.
When defending someone become the preeminent cardinal sin.
Maybe it's around the same time your generation started making sweeping generalizations about ours.
Whatever shame you have around self-expression.
Oh, brother.
Oh, no. Julia Roberts looks good.
You tend to choose people because they worship you, not because of any actual merit on their part.
Maggie is brilliant.
Is she? Does she just think you're brilliant? Hank's continued obsession.
Sorry, did he just kiss her on the lips?
Always felt pity.
Here we go. Talk to Maggie today.
No, she wasn't in class. No call, no show.
Oh?
I need to speak with you. Okay?
It's giving horror movie.
Yes, for a nightcap, which, it's fine.
Oh.
Hank, everybody loves Hank.
What are you saying happened?
He crossed the line.
Oh, no.
What actually happened?
Not this.
It's giving Miller's
Isn't
Girl.
it to tell someone and, give in your history?
What does that mean, my history? So are you going to tell me why this is not true?
Aunt Maggie cheated. I told her I suspected she plagiarized, and then the next day, utter fabrication.
These kids have had everything handed to them in their lives. Insist that the world stop at the first slip of victimization.
It's just amazing to me. Young Black women can get assaulted and all these white people figure out a way to make it about themselves.
Period. Tell them, sis.
Know the truth, and you won't
Luca.
because it'll make you look bad.
It's also giving May
We should be
December.
ready.
Ready for what?
It's also giving baby girl.
Backlash, potentially.
I know you have feelings for me.
Oh, this is happening to me.
I am a desperate man. I'm absolutely desperate.
Not this. Luca Guadagnino, you're not beating the allegations.
But whatever happened to stuffing everything down like the rest of us?
Did you know anything about this?
I worked too hard, done too much to get here, to let it all just be taken away.
It's giving melodrama.
Done could have changed what's happened.
You don't know that.
Okay.
It's giving overacting from Andrew Garfield.
I don't feel comfortable having this conversation with you anymore.
Not everything is supposed to make you comfortable.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
it's definitely giving baby girl.
But why is Luca so obsessed with three-ways? Like, what's going on?
And problematic age gaps too.
Anyway, I'm sad. That looks interesting. I'm very excited.
My first impression is that it aesthetically looks different from typical Luca movies, because I feel like Luca movies, regardless of how I might ever feel about the plots or whatever, they always look quite striking to me. They either look like postcards or music videos or memories, whereas this looks very like just straightforward film. Like nothing looks exceptional about the cinematography or the lighting or anything like that. Clearly, what is going to be the appeal with this movie is the inflammatory themes and the buzzy cast. You seem very enthusiastic.
I'm excited. It's giving psychological thriller. That's my bag, basically.
What do you think? What direction do you think that this movie is going to take this? Because there are multiple lines I can see it going. Some more problematic than others.
I don't know, and that's why I'm intrigued. I'm like, I want to see what you have to say. Like you said, there's so many ways they can do this. They already hinted at the race element, that, you know, she's a black woman, there's a power imbalance here. Are they going to make a comment about how black women navigate institutions like this? I kind of doubt that, frankly.
Is it Luca that knows how to do that?
Exactly.
I have watched 2 movies now from him where he has a biracial black woman lead. That was Zendaya in Challengers and Taylor Russell in Bones and All. And in my opinion, in neither movie was the raciality of those characters properly woven into the plot. In Challengers, I believe there's one passing comment where Zendaya makes that I'm just taking care of my 2 white boys, and that's it. And in Bones and All, I don't believe there's any racial context to that character. To me, is written completely race blind. For me, in Challengers, it was a serious problem because the racialization of black women in tennis is inherently a part of their experience in the world of pro tennis. So how can you make a big movie about a woman who within her world is coded as black and she's a major tennis player or involved in tennis scene, and her race doesn't come up as part of her lived reality in many serious ways? Like, that's not, to me, when you do things like that, it actually distracts me from the movie because the movie stops feeling like real life to me. I think about Naomi Osaka, I think about Serena Williams, I think about Coco Gauff. All of them, their black womanhood is tied to how they're racialized within their sport. Anyway, the point I'm making is that Luca is not a person that I trust to have a nuanced command of how black women navigate society. That doesn't mean I'm not interested in it. He has made some of my favorite, most memorable films.
Yeah, no, I doubt this. I think the comment we saw about her blackness is probably the throwaway comment, actually. Hence why I don't think he would go down that route, but I am interested to see what happens. I wouldn't be surprised, knowing his track record, if they end up becoming a throuple.
Now,
in a very problematic way.
Are we supposed to be reading Ayo's character in this trailer as a queer woman, and everybody understands she's queer, and that's why Julia Roberts' character is saying all sorts of "I know you want me" comments to her?
Unfortunately, as you said, Luca doesn't have the range. If they were willing to go there and talk about how certain types of white women are so used to assuming that they are everybody else's object of attraction and everyone else is attracted to them, then I would like to see that delusion played out a little bit through this character, but I know it won't happen.
Delusion? Bold of you to assume that this movie is not going to lean all the way into it and say, yes, Ayo Edebiri's character is obsessed with her.
No, I'm saying I think that's what's going to happen. I'm just saying that I would like to see the delusion played out.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, I like Andrew Garfield a lot, but what I was seeing in that trailer, the acting was looking a bit suspect. But I'll be watching this movie regardless.
It's giving melodrama. I'm very excited, I have to say. Thanks for going deep with us. Like us on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you're streaming this from.
Thanks for listening. We'll speak to you next time.